us. There still needs to be an investigation here, but based on the footage, you've seen the concessions we've even heard from the police minister already. What do you think about what happened here?
Well, I think I should start just by saying that in just over a month's time, we're going to be marking the 10th anniversary of the death of Andries Ntumba. So we're talking about the fact that we know that rubber bullets are potentially lethal, and that particularly when they're used at close range, there's a high probability that they will result in fatalities. So, if I was to answer your question, I'd be answering the question about why 10 years after the death of Andries Ntumba, there's still someone who, on the information that we have at the moment, was shot at close range with rubber bullets. So, I think I would have one or two answers to that question, but I think it's important for me to just make a note of that fact, that this isn't at all new.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also comes after the Farlam Commission looking into Marikana, saying that police training is so crucial in these sort of high volatile situations. What has been done since then? Because the whole idea was that you wouldn't have anyone, like the police minister suggested, just going crazy.
Right, okay. I think maybe things are getting a bit confused here, because the Farlam Commission itself didn't simply make recommendations for more extensive police training. It made a number of other recommendations, and one of them was a recommendation for the establishment of a panel of experts that was established in 2016 and submitted its report to the minister in 2018. So that report then was supposed to look at a range of issues to do with public order policing in South Africa, including specific issues about the types of weapons that are used and how they are used. And so one of the things that we should look at in discussing this issue is what has happened to that report and what has happened to the recommendations that were made in that report, which then deals in a lot of detail with questions to do with weapons that are used in public order policing and the standards that are applied in terms of how they are used.
Sure. I guess very simply, I'm asking, an issue was highlighted, police training lacking in this country years ago. Has anything been done significantly around police training since?
Well, you see, I could answer the fact, because in terms of training numbers of public order police, yes, there have been a significant number of public order police members who have been through the training system. Whether that training prepares them to deal with the kind of protests that were taking place in Braamfontein yesterday, or whether that training adequately addresses the issues to do with how they use rubber bullets is another kind of question.
Yeah.
So basically, the problem here is that it's not only a question of training, it's also a question about the regulatory framework that's in place in relation to how rubber bullets are used. And on both of those levels, in terms of the training curriculum and in terms of the regulatory framework, notwithstanding the fact that Andries Ntumba was killed in April 2011, we haven't moved forward to a position where we can say that the risks related to the use of rubber bullets are adequately acknowledged and addressed, either in police training or in police standing orders and regulations, or in the manner in which public order operations are commanded.
Yeah, I mean, the police minister himself saying shots should be fired as a last resort, but it doesn't seem like that happened in this case. So are you saying there's not a clear sort of standard operating procedure? And what would that be? Say students are there and they're being aggressive. Let's say, for example, they're throwing rocks and stones at police. Is there a course of action that the police should take to minimize, obviously, fatalities and injuries?
Yes, well, I mean, it's important again in this case just to start with the fact that the person who has been killed, on the information that we have, was completely uninvolved in the protests. And so again, we've got, a series of incidents over the last 10 years where people who are uninvolved in protests have been injured. There was an incident last year where the boy called Leo Williams was killed. He was hit by a rubber bullet while, as I understand it, he was within the family home. So, the question that you're asking about people who are throwing rocks and so on, which I'm not sure that was something that was happening in this situation.
I'm not saying
but
it was. I'm
basic
asking if there's a standard operating procedure that everybody understands.
No, there isn't. There isn't one that adequately addresses questions to do with, which clearly specifies when and when not members of the SAPS should use should use rubber bullets. And so the basic point about the fact that they hit someone who was completely uninvolved in the protest is, a key point here, because the fact is that the weapons are often used in a very reckless manner, rather than specifically targeting individuals who are involved in violent or other unlawful behavior.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate your time tonight. That was an independent researcher specialising in policing, David Bruce.